And then there were 8. Coming up on the preview show, we break down each of the divisional round matchups. It's the best time of the year, Ceci.
Ceci is ready for Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, when Ceci's ready, you better be ready. It's time to heed the call. Hey-o, welcome to Heed the Call, an NFL podcast. I am Dan Hansis, joined as I always am by the great Mark Sessler. If it's a preview episode, and this certainly is, that means Connor Orr is here, Justin Graver, as always, on the ones and twos. And I don't want to just repeat myself over and over again for 15 years, Mark, but I'm going to do it anyway. Pound for pound, this is the best weekend of the football year. The divisional round playoffs have arrived. 4 games, 4 bangers. It is going to be a lot of fun. The Elite 8 of the NFL.
Yeah, I think you can repeat it for 15 plus years if it's true. And it's true. And I think that the added element or icing on so-called cake this time around is an icing of mystery. It's a strange group of teams that feel very different than years past. We've been saying that for weeks. And it amps up my curiosity and intrigue because it's not the same old faces. And I like that.
How about this, Connor? I wrote this down. I was just looking at the teams that are left right now. We have most likely the top 3 finishers in MVP voting: Stafford, May, and Allen in some order. The top 3 defenses in football, arguably Houston, Seattle, Denver. Perhaps the 2 most influential / important coaches of their era, Shanny and McVay. And one damn maniac who just wants to burn it all down, Ben Johnson. And that's just the appetizer as we get into the meal.
It's like the part in The Dark Knight where there's all the established criminal gangs that everyone is very afraid of, and then the Joker with the gigantic pile of money, and then he just throws a lit cigar into it. It's very dangerous, it's very sexy, it's very alluring, and I can't wait for it.
Mm.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
I was thinking about your Michael Caine impression, by the way, and I can't find this video anymore. And if someone can please find it on Instagram, please send it to me. It's just a video of a guy totally shit-faced on white wine singing the songs from A Muppet Christmas Carol, but instead of the songs, every word is Michael Caine, and he's just doing it in a perfect Michael Caine voice, and I can't stop thinking about it.
I
So
think
if
that was
anyone listens
actually
to this,
I think that
please
was
send it to
Sessler
me.
at the 2017 NFL Media Holiday Party.
Could have been. I do think along with Christopher Walken, everyone that attempts impressions does a Christopher Walken and they do a Michael Caine at this point. Everyone has their own version of Michael
But
Caine.
not everybody can do it as good as me.
Well, okay,
So,
not everybody can do it as well as you. Some can.
I jumped in probably a month ago now and literally just did that. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Right.
And I was met with blank stares and what the hell are you saying? Why are you doing a Michael
You got
Caine?
hit with a classic no sell. I get that all the time on this show. Welcome to the club. Isn't it fun?
A bunch of victims. We've got just a fleet of victims discussing their grievances.
The difference, Justin, is that Dan's sounds like the person it's supposed to, and yours does not. So
See, that's just unnecessarily rude.
Legend takes
Kind of left yourself
an arrow
wide
to
open
the
there,
chest.
Legend. And yes, I'm teasing it before we get into the first game. We promised it. We asked for it. You delivered the 30K challenge. We have over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube now. Thank you to everybody. And as a result, yes, in mere minutes, we will hear the story of Connor Orr and Sean Payton. By the way, if Sean Payton hears that the old Zeuser said he wasn't one of the most influential coaches of his era, I might be the next one in the line for a beating, a verbal jousting match that leaves me bloodied. But it's coming. Connor telling the story, mere minutes. Don't go anywhere. Connor, you ready to rock the world?
as ready as I'm going to be. Yeah.
Is there a fair amount of pressure on Connor, Dan, to deliver a an absolute banger of a tale.
Well, yeah, as only the best bits can accomplish. It is that idea that we're building up to something so inconsequential, so stupid, and such a waste of time that that would be almost better than if it's actually a good story. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I mean, at this point, the only thing that constitutes a good story is it's like, oh my God, like, how did you wrestle the knife away when he tried to stab you? Like, and it's not there. We're not, there's no human on human violence.
Be a showman, Connor. Don't reveal anything. We're getting there. Okay. All right. So we're going to go. How do we want to do? We want to go in the order? Yeah, let's go in the order of the games. Divisional round playoffs. Remember, this is also a huge week for locks. Sessler and Hansis tied atop the standings. Hansis, then Sessler. Alphabetical order. Don't get caught up with anything.
Well, the wrong
in terms
order.
of disrespect. But Connor on an epic slide that people are. It's starting to become newsworthy. It's starting to become a potential international story. What's happening here with Connor and Justin? You know, just when you couldn't get any worse a start to a show, Justin, after the Michael Caine takedown. Yes, you're 7-12 and not even worth the conversation in this competition anymore.
That's true. Now I do have some maybe potential trick up my sleeve. The ability to double up and put myself at least back in the mix.
All right, we'll get to it.
But we'll see what happens.
Unfortunately for you, your master plan fails to take into account that we can all do that as well. In fact, Mark already has gone back to the future successfully, somewhat miraculously.
So Mark, if I like, you also said, Dan, if you miss it, it has the opposite crazy effect. So I'm sort of banking on you and Connor.
You said
going
the opposite
double down.
Crazy effect?
Well, yeah, right. You'd get double
What does that
loss.
mean?
Double loss.
Like, yeah, double loss.
Yes.
Double loss.
We're trying to be communicators. We're broadcasting here, Justin.
You're right.
Got Walt Whitman over here.
It could have the effect of going back in time and changing one of your wins into a loss. And
Yes,
if I can
got
go
it.
back in time and turn one of my losses
Yes.
into a win at the same time, it's like,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
I need a Music City miracle to come back
Right.
and win this thing.
All
but
right,
it's not
everyone. We'll
over.
see you next week. It's been a great show.
Okay, we're going to have to turn off the mic of the producer. All right, let's get into it. So that could happen at any point. Remember, boys, the lock, when you have your team, that's when you bring in the conversation. Let's get into it. Let's start with an AFC banger. The number 6 Bills, the number 6 seed Bills at the top seeded Denver Broncos. Broncos are favored here by 1.5. I feel like this line's been moving. Is that fair to say? I think I've heard that it's been moving a little bit. Maybe that's a different game. It doesn't matter. Nance and Romo, big game for Romo, by the
It
way,
is.
who, not just on our show, all over the discourse, got a ton of criticism for his Bills-Jaguars performance. He was on our buddy Shine show, and he said that he was actually sick the day of the game, but didn't want to miss it. Of course you're not going to miss it. But I guess that a little damage control, a little spin zone, but that's not the point here. The point is the Bills and Broncos are playing. And let's start here, Ceci. The Broncos have earned this right to host this game, to have just 2 home wins away from getting back to the Super Bowl 10 years after Von Miller and company conquered in Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers. But now you have a problem. You have a figure in Josh Allen, who I think is the biggest superstar, with all due respect to everyone else that's still playing in these games. He is the biggest number 1 star left, and that a star of that level in the prime of his career with everything to play for, coming off a big victory where he balled out. I love this idea of Josh Allen in seize the moment mode, heeding the call in Denver with the Broncos looking to turn him back. How fun.
I totally agree. We've waited for Buffalo to create this moment where they get out of the AFC, and I kind of love them being road warriors, up against it week after week to get there. If you're Denver, you don't love the fact that you're the number 1 seed and you have Josh Allen rolling into town as your reward for everything that you went through. It is a Bills team, though. I look at the Bills in 2 different ways because you are so compromised injury-wise. At wide receiver, Tyrell Shavers, Gabe Davis both tear their ACLs. Curtis Samuel is questionable. Dalton Kincaid is banged up. I mean, they're down to almost nothing, except that you're hoping that Brandon Cooks turns the clock back 10 years ago like he did a week ago. To me, I almost feel that none of that matters with the Bills, because it's like they know that they're kind of up against it injury-wise. And Josh Allen's own body has 3 injuries we know of and probably countless other aches and pains going on. And I don't think it matters. They feel kind of just beyond the circumstance to me, that this is the Bills' moment. And it's a tough place to go play in Denver. I think it's underrated for how rowdy and wild that situation is. And I think Sean Payton with an extra week, that matters. He's one coach where that matters with this team, and he's going to have them ready to play. But the Broncos defense has not been the same defense over since their bye. And I do think that this is it for the Bills. This has to happen right now with Josh Allen just going full Superman. That can be tiresome to hear about, but this is that moment for Josh Allen.
So I'm looking at the Broncos schedule here, and what really kind of fascinates me about this matchup in particular is that Vance Joseph built a defense to dominate within the division, right? You're always presenting 5 defenders at the line. You have no idea how many of them are going to drop back on any given down. That's really like a Mahomes antidote, right? But where you come into some trouble, and they have good interior, defensive line play, but where you get into trouble is when you face literally the best inside run team in the NFL. So you go back through the Broncos schedule this year, and it's like, when have they really faced? And you had a banged up Chargers team, the Chiefs, the Jaguars, the Packers, I think when they were a little banged up, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Raiders, the Texans, the Cowboys, the Giants. When have they faced a team like this that really is kind of the foil to that, or the antithesis to that kind of defense, where it doesn't matter how many guys you're dropping back. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to match power with power, and you have to stop James Cook in between your guards. And so that's why I think this is really kind of a fascinating matchup, because it's going to force it's going to force Denver especially to maybe be a little bit uncomfortable defensively.
Yeah, Denver's defense, while it has the reputation, and I even set it up in the beginning of the show, and that's why I said arguably it's a top 3 defenses by some metrics, including a lot of pop the hood metrics. It's closer to a top 10 defense. I mean, it's one of the better defenses in the league, but it's not at the level of a Houston or Seattle. And I think it can be beaten. And I think there are ways that Denver succeeds. We know their pass rush is ferocious. But you know what Josh Allen is great at, and what he's been killing it all season? His short passing game, getting the ball out quickly. In fact, he threw 12 touchdowns against just 1 pick, passer rating over 115 on quick passes. And that's something that's partly by necessity, right? Because they have had a issue with wide receivers as consistent playmakers. And now on top of it, they're dressing, I think, 4 healthy wide receivers. They're missing so many guys on that end. Now we know that they play with extra tight ends, and you have James Cook back there. So I don't think the news that we heard around the injuries this week is something that necessarily is going to bury their offense. But I also think that it puts a little bit more pressure on the running game to give balance to this offense. Can James Cook get going against the Denver front? And conversely, we know that the Bills' defense has really struggled against the run all year. Connor, you had brought it up a couple weeks ago that maybe R.J. Harvey, who has a lot of talent, maybe he's not quite the playoff dog that they need right now, especially after J.K. Dobbins went down. Is he going to be able to kind of control the flow of this game and then allow Bo Nix to get into the mix without going through what he's had in terms of issues this year with consistency at times?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And J.K. Dobbins, there was that idea that he might be back. He was at Wednesday's practice, and that was the first time that he was spotted at practice since the surgery, but it doesn't look like he's as close as advertised to being on the field. And so that presents just a lot of opportunities, I think, for the Bills defense in a lot of different ways that McDermott can cook. And it puts a lot of challenge on Sean Payton too, because you want to get him the ball, but you also need him to be stout. in pass protection, and you need him to hang on. And if you can't trust him in those situations, and if the Bills can overwhelm him, and this isn't a knock on Harvey, like this happens to Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And he's arguably the best back in the NFL right now. But if you can pin them into a situation that they just simply don't perform well in, it really does take away from the playmaking ability. And again, that's a huge challenge on the play calling head coach.
It's a bit of an odd matchup to preconceive because, to your point, like the Broncos, it's not Derrick Henry against a soft Bills run defense. And in converse, like it's not the Bills, Patrick Surtain, like who's he taking away? You're not facing Puka Nacua here. It's like the Bills have a soup of weapons, if you want to call them that kind of not one of them is a dominant standout force. And so like the Broncos defense isn't really totally pitted perfectly to take away one giant figure in this game. And so it does boil back down to Josh Allen working with what he has. And I think last week he had to work with a little, not a lot, through most of that game. And I also thought Sean McDermott cooked up a very good defensive scheme in that game. Like I think this Bills defense and offense they're basically constructed to work through these weaknesses at this time of year. And I think experience matters. Like all of it matters for this Bills team. And the road side of it just doesn't concern me the way it would for another team.
I do agree with that. And I like the Bills in this game. I think the Bills, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to, because Buffalo only knows one way to play in the postseason, and it's these thrilling back and forth games that has so often ended with their hearts getting ripped out. And that was like my concern when they didn't win the division initially. I was like, shit, like if you're a Bills fan, you feel comfortable going through 3 rounds of the playoffs without getting picked off here in road contests. But then like after I watched, and I said it last week, if they could get past Jacksonville and start like kind of really building up some momentum, maybe it is best to just be on the road and go into each of these games feeling like we're not the favorite here. You're expecting us to get picked off, but that's exactly what's not going to happen this time. So I like the Bills here. I like it like a 31-27 type game. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about, guys, and I want to hear who you think is going to win too, and if anyone's locking this game up, is do we trust Bo Nix in the spot? Because he's been up and down the season, and the numbers back that up, despite their shining record and number 1 seed.
I think because I think if you're a Broncos fan, you're listening to this and being like, we're just being dismissed to some degree again, and I don't think we're doing that. Like, I think they're going to battle.
Perhaps a little bit.
Well, a little bit, because I think I was like, what's the last number 1 seed that people probably dismissed to some degree? And Justin, I'm sorry, but I think it might have been like the 21 Titans would have been a team that people just kind of looked past as the number 1 seed. And I get it. I think Denver fans get it too if they're looking at it with eyes open. But this is a rough encounter. I go Bills 27-24. I think Knicks will show up. I think that's going to look like a consistent Broncos offensive showing that we've seen all year, for better or worse.
I think I'm going to pay attention to the first few drives, because to me, that gives me a clue of like what kind of mindset is Sean Payton putting Bo Nix into, and what kind of game does he think this is? Because if it's run, if it's just like little play pass and dump down, that means we're going to try to elongate possessions. We're going to try to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, and we're going to try to trust our defense. If it's let's come out there and put the cowboy hat on and throw it down the field, that means I think this thing's going to be a damn shootout, and I'm going to need you to be awesome in the 3rd and 4th quarter, which he is. I think he's like, if you look at Bo Nix's splits, he's like awesome in the 3rd quarter for some reason. He's got like a 70% completion rate above all the other quarters, like really, really good. Actually, right before the half too. He's a really excellent quarterback, and 2nd most touchdowns in the 4th quarter. So, I mean, he's a good late game QB, but it's like, what kind of mind frame are you trying to put him in before this starts?
Who you got?
I'm going to take the Bills, because I think when it comes down to it, and we see cosmic forces at play, there's always an official willing to kick Sean Payton out of a critical playoff game and put a quarterback or a team that we're more interested in into the next round of the playoffs.
Okay, so Bills across the board. What could possibly
Sorry, Buffalo.
Everything could go wrong.
And just so you know, we do have some weather games this weekend. Not here. The weather is supposed to be beautiful, actually, in Denver this weekend with a high in the mid 40s and sunny. So that is also something to keep in consideration. Yes, Justin.
I had no plans to do this, but you all have forced my hand. Because you're all picking against a home favorite, I have no choice. I don't even believe in them that strongly. But what the heck? I've been wrong 5 weeks in a row. I'm locking up the Broncos, and I'm doubling it.
Okay.
Why
that
did you
actually
have
is
to
even
do
worse. That's even worse.
Yeah.
Because the 7-12 guy just locked up the Broncos after the other guys all picked the Bills. This seems like even more of a...
We didn't lock the Bills. We just picked them out.
Yeah, we picked the Bills. That's right.
Right, but whenever all three of you pick something, there's no way it can happen, even though you were all right about the Rams.
Oh, that's where you're coming from.
You were all wrong about the Eagles last week, so
All right, Justin.
I'm leaning into it.
This sets the
Okay.
stage for the most insufferable moment in show history since Cam Ward was drafted. So we'll see what happens.
Or a week from now, we're laughing because he's 6-13 or whatever.
That would be good. That would be good.
All right, speaking of Sean Payton, without further ado, Sean Payton, I felt like he was a nice little table setter this week. And shout out to the YouTube commenter, Peter Cofrancesco. Yes, it was the same reporter, Luca Evans, that Sean Payton got after this week. Let's check that out again.
Sean, having Greenlaw back for this game, his ability to attack downhill and in the run game, just how big is that and the timing of it for this one?
You want him to attack downhill? Is that your, like, what do you know about attacking downhill in the run game? You don't know. All right, that's right.
But
Have him attacking downhill. It's good to have a healthy Dre Greenlaw back in the game. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
What a jackass. What a mean old man. What a cranky old codger. This Connor Orr, Sean Payton story, it's going to be a banger. Stay tuned. It's coming soon. For now, though, let's take a break and continue on with the divisional round preview. Sassy, one of my goals this year is being more intentional about what I'm putting in my body without cutting out the fun parts of life. I realized I don't actually miss alcohol itself. I miss the taste and that unwind moment at the end of the day. That's why I've been reaching for RK, baby.
Oh, well, I have two right here. And RK makes alcohol-free versions of whiskey, tequila, gin. That's what I got. Rum, vodka, and more. And they're all zero alcohol, zero sugar, and 0 calories. What really surprised me is how real it feels. Their patented warm molecule delivers that smooth burn you expect from liquor, just without the alcohol, Dan.
Mark, I've been using RK on weeknights and at certain social events, especially during this dry January that we're both doing. And it swaps into cocktails so easily. I made my classic vodka soda with an orange slice with the vodka right here, RK, and it checked every box: taste, aroma, and that familiar finish. It's perfect for anyone avoiding alcohol for health reasons, pregnancy, recovery, or just, personal choice. Dry January doesn't mean giving up cocktails. It just means finding better options.
Right. RK is currently offering private investment opportunities as it expands toward a future NASDAQ listing. So join investors, influencers, and millions of fans who are just joining the RK Zero Proof revolution.
If you want all the flavor and none of the alcohol, check out RK Zero Proof, your favorite cocktails made non-alcoholic, available at Walmart, Amazon, or rkbeverages.com. That's ARKAY beverages.com. Let's go. All right, we are back. Oh, man. Bills, Broncos in the rear view. Now let's move on. Let's move to the NFC. Let's move to the number 6 seed San Francisco 49ers at the number 1 seed Seattle Seahawks. The spread right now, Seattle by 7. It's the biggest spread of the weekend. Burkhardt and Brady on the call. Here's a little developing news here, by the way. And it's a big one. It's huge. In fact, that 7-point spread, I'm going to give you guys a heads up. That's about to come down because Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold has been added to the injury report with an oblique injury and is questionable for Saturday's divisional round game against the Niners. Remind me, who's the backup quarterback of the Seahawks?
Jalen Milroe?
Seriously, though, who's the backup quarterback of the Seahawks?
It's Jalen Milroe.
It is Jalen Milroe.
Well, hold on. Oh, and Drew Lock.
Oh, it's Drew Lock. Okay.
There's no way Sam Darnold does not play in this.
I'm just saying, listen, he's on the injury report. He's listed as questionable and oblique injury. You do not mess with oblique injuries. If it's a bad one, it would not allow him to be a quarterback. So, yes, is it more likely than not that he plays? Yeah, but it is something very legitimate to keep an eye on here. And we're obviously going to get more info around Darnold as we get closer to the game. But as we record this, he is now on the injury report. Otherwise, you feel as a Seahawks fan, at least before this Darnold news, kind of very confident in Seattle's chances here. Listen, you can't just take one outcome in a matchup and then just say same thing's going to happen. But this division and the reason this game is being played in Seattle is the way it is, and the fact that the Seahawks are coming off a 1 week bye is because they stomped the Niners at the Big Bell Bottom in week 18. And now you have a lot of things even set up better for you potentially here. Well, at least until we learn that the quarterback might be hurt.
Well, let's remember that Patrick Mahomes had an ankle injury before he rushed for 60 yards in the second half of a Super Bowl. So
that's Patrick Mahomes. That's a whole different ball of wax, but okay.
All right. Smart coaches copy smart coaches. But, I think I was admittedly a prisoner of the moment during the 49ers rise when I thought that the Seahawks were going to lose that rematch game at the end of the season.
Same.
And I think that I'm probably flipping again after seeing George Kittle go down, after seeing the 49ers need the absolute perfect play call to beat a clearly hampered Eagles team that was just totally inept offensively, right? So much so that their coordinator is no longer there. And so with that in mind, I think I just have to go with Seattle because I think that they're going to match up a little bit better. I think that Darnold, even as a pocket passer that's limited with mobility, is just going to have more outs and more options than Hurts gives himself in that offense. And it's just going to be harder for the 49ers defense to put a pin in that. They're going to have to score a lot more than they're accustomed to.
Yeah, I tend to agree. The Darnold news shakes me a bit based on some of my plans for this show. I think I'm going to stick to my plan. Darnold, though, in general, like through week 11, was the number one quarterback in the league in QBR, and since has tumbled to 27th. Like, Darnold's not been top Darnold for a while. I still think, though, this is such a complete team. And the number they put on the Niners in their last contest where they held them to 3 points, and the Mike Macdonald team building and scheme in general on defense, which has a ferocious front. I just think this is the end of the road for a Niners team that feels to me so stretched thin. I think what happened last week is a symbol and an emblem and a stamp of who they are. And it's like, you can be proud of this team in every possible way. But Seattle to me is clearly the best team in the NFC right now, outside of the Rams. Like, I think that they just clearly are, and them at home. I am going to, and I hope the Darnold thing does not throw me off a bridge here, but I'm going to lock up the Seahawks, baby. I'm locking them up.
You're also locking them in at 7, by the way, which is 14.
Wait, what?
The look in your face was incredible.
Thank you, Sassy. I like that lock. Good job.
No takesy backsies.
No takesies backsies.
Didn't we say you could change your lock a week ago?
No,
Huh?
you could.
What are you talking about?
That was 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we did let Dan. This was the week that you wanted to pick the Bills over the Jets, but we hadn't revealed spreads. But this is different because we already know the spreads. I don't know. That didn't happen, though.
You know what?
Mark.
That's gutless. I'm going to stick with it. If I
Hell
lose,
yeah.
I lose. I'm sticking with
go.
the
Oh,
Seahawks.
yeah.
A man
They'll
of
win
principle.
by 15. If they win by 14, I'm good, though, right?
Yes, you're clear.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sticking
it could
with
happen because obviously the 49ers were non-competitive in a lot of ways in that Week 18 game. And it does feel, to your point, Connor, that the George Kittle injury is just a killer for them.
Right.
Like not just what he does in the passing game for them, but what he does in the running game for them as a blocker. And I felt the same way. And kudos to Kyle Shanahan for cooking up the trick play to beat the Eagles, but they needed that because I don't know if they had another option to find a way in the end zone in that spot. And what I'm really curious to see here is if Seattle's front four dominates again the way they did in Week 18. There's some good stats here I saw here in PFF that in that Week 18 game against the Niners, Purdy's average depth of target was 4 yards. It was every other matchup in the last 5 weeks, as he's had a really strong close overall, Purdy, to the season. He was regularly targeting downfield past the sticks. Seattle, though, was able to get home repeatedly, just like we saw with Houston and Pittsburgh, not needing the blitz to do it. They only rushed more than 5 once in that game, and they still made life terrible for Brock Purdy. So if that holds, then it's like, okay, what about CMC? Can CMC save the day? This is a guy that didn't even average 4 yards a carry on the ground. He got bottled up in Week 18 as well. And now, like I said, you take Kittle out of it. I don't know if San Francisco, and this is crazy to say because they're talking about Kyle Shanahan's Niners, I don't know if they have the firepower to exist in this environment. I also like the Seahawks. I would lock it up if not for the spread situation, but I expect them to run the ball again very well against San Francisco's defense. I think Darnold's going to kind of be in a backseat caretaker role here, Connor, and I think this one goes kind of similar in plot. I like Seattle winning this game, let's say 27-14.
I like Seattle as well. I'll take them. And the reason why, so if you look at, and we've actually only had one little bit of sample size this year with Mike McDonald against a Shanahan offense, if I'm not misreading their schedule. I think it was just the 2 times that he played Kyle Shanahan. I don't think he played anybody else that came directly from that scheme this year. But when you look at a team that's perfectly suited to stop the Shanahan offense, it's interior pressure and great edge setting defensive ends. And so you have DeMarcus Lawrence, you have Byron Murphy, and you have Leonard Williams. They are the antidote to this offense. And so what is this San Francisco 49ers offense without the run game engine behind it? And I just think that they'll be able to peel back the layers of this offense and force Brock Purdy to throw the ball, and he's just out of people to throw the ball to. I mean, this is just, there's just not a lot of options for him left.
Ooh, we have breaking news. What do you got, Justin?
Kyle Shanahan just said in his press conference after Thursday's practice, Fred Warner will not be activated this week.
Okay, Warner's been out, obviously, most of the season with a lower leg injury, and he practiced this week. They were hoping maybe Warner goes back. Now it looks like at the very earliest it would be the NFC title game if San Francisco gets that far. Go ahead, Sassy.
Well, I think that all has been done in the construct of if they ever got to the title game, you've got Fred. I don't. He
was pushing a play this week.
I know he talked
Schefter,
about that,
yeah.
and that's all fine. But that's the other part of it. Like, you don't have Bosa, you don't have Warner. Like, you're just down all over the place, and I really agree with what you guys said about the Niners offense as a final comment for me. I think the reason I think Seattle can win by 14 points, if it came down to it, is that McCaffrey has been a under 3.5 yards per carry rusher against the Seahawks defense in 3 meetings. Now, they're awesome against wide receivers, and they give up a lot of catches to running backs, but I don't know how you just put it on one person's back. When they were wiped out by Seattle last time, Kittle played 95% of the snaps. I just don't love the matchup for San Francisco here. It feels like the end of the road. And I do think my score prediction, which would be 35-10, will get me my lock. And You guys will be texting me on Saturday night saying that was prophetic. Wow. Or you'll be making fun of me because it's going to be 35-10 in the other direction, and I'll be freaking out.
I just like that you forgot about the double up rule. That was funny.
It was funny to 3 people, not to the 4th.
No, in all fairness, we'll give you a pass because you did clearly not remember. If you want to move up, this is actually even more mean to Sessler. If you want to move off the lock, you can. Go ahead.
No, I think that's gutless. Okay. I want to operate.
But you can.
With valor.
We won't judge. No, Connor, judgment zone. No, right? If you want to jump off, go ahead.
No, yeah. I'm sticking with this. If I lose the lock challenge because of this, just remember that I was on a mountaintop with a sword over my head. Valor.
Right.
I couldn't love this anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when you locked it, you thought you just had to win. But
we don't need to examine that part of it.
But yeah, if we don't squint, it does appear heroic.
Let's not squint.
Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's head to the Sunday games. The number 5 Texans at the number 2 Patriots. Slobber knocker alert. I have no data to back this up, but I feel like every time I've said on this show in the past 6 weeks, hey, bet the under on a particular game, it has come under every time. And I'm going to say it again. Slobber knocker. The over-under is 40.5 points. What does that mean if you're not a gravy type addicted to gaming in that capacity? That means the combined totals of the two teams has to come in under 41 points for you to cash out your win. And that's kind of how I see it. I think this is going to be a battle, Connor, between what I think is the best defense in football, the Houston Texans, and a Patriots team that is wonderfully coached, that is coming off a win where they didn't necessarily play well, but they were able to get their feet under them in this postseason in taking care of business against the Chargers. And I think they will also be able to lay the wood on a Texans offense that could be quite compromised with Nico Collins still in concussion protocol as we tape.
Yeah, I said it earlier this week that I just feel like the way that you can play to optimize Stroud, I mean, obviously having a number one wide receiver helps, but I think that you can do this without him and still play the brand of football that you want to play and win this game. That's why I am, with gusto, locking up the Houston Texans with my back to the future lock.
Oh.
I'm going to jump right back into this one, baby. I'm going to end this 5-game losing streak. Sean Payton can't scare me anymore. Woohoo!
Wow. So, and I just want to point out, in case anybody forgot, you also locked against the Patriots in Foxborough last week, which has extended what's now as I understand it, my producer let me know, a 5-game losing skid that you're on. So going back to the Patriots, almost trying to will them out of the playoffs. And listen, I love where your head's at. I love it. Yeah. In fact, I also believe the Texans are going to win this game, but I wouldn't lock it up because I think it's going to go. I think it's a field goal game. I think it's like a 16-13, 21-17 type game. I have to say the biggest thing that spooks me, because I think, again, this is interesting that we have all these really good defenses left in these playoffs. What does it say about where the direction of the league is going and all that fun stuff if you want to go look at it from above the treetops? But, just in this game, I don't think that Drake May, who, by the way, didn't play that well last week. I don't know if anybody was tracking that. He made a couple nice throws, but I don't think he played his best game by any stretch. I don't think he's going to have a lot of success against this Houston defense. And it won't be because I don't think Drake May is a great quarterback. I just think this Houston defense is that good and playing with that much confidence and has their best guys healthy and raring to go. My big concern about your lock here, Connor, is CJ Stroud and what we saw last week, where they almost handed that game to Pittsburgh that had no business being in the playoffs because Stroud was completely out to lunch for the first 2.5 quarters.
I don't think you're going to get CJ Stroud doing that again. I mean, wait, 5 fumbles, 2 of them lost in an interception.
Well, I don't, not necessarily at that level, but I don't know. You take Nico Collins off the field. I know some of their other players stepped up in the passing game, Kirk amongst others, but that spooked me a little bit.
I think you're much closer with Drake May operating in a confusing environment. I mean, I thought the Chargers gave Drake May a lot of problems last week, and it was concerning to some degree to see Will Campbell, who is a very good rookie tackle, and Jared Wilson on the left side of that line take a lot of heat and cause problems for Drake May. It's just this defense. I think of the 8 teams left, this defense in Houston is the best unit on either side of the ball for any team left in the playoffs. I really do think it is. And I think you need CJ Stroud, Nico Collins or not, to put up about 20 points and you can take care of business here. I really think that this could be the place where the Patriots and a young quarterback have to deal with the most ferocious scenario around in the AFC right now.
So I was looking at it, and last week, Drake May was under pressure for about a third of his snaps. I think that you could probably move that up comfortably, like another 10% after. And it's not because that the Texans defense is much better than a Jesse Minter defense. I think it just has more ways to bother you and to get into the backfield than a Jesse Minter defense. So I think it's Drake May, who had like a 58% completion percentage last week. Again, wasn't his best game, missed some throws. And then you ratchet up that pressure another 10%. And you maybe give the Patriots, you ding them a little bit on the luck variance because they were lucky in recovering some of those fumbles and all that stuff last week. I just think that that's what slides the abacus a little bit towards the Texans in my view. Do you slide an abacus to make decisions? What are you using abacus for?
That's a great question. I'm not 2,000 years old, so I'm not sure. But
sundial.
Yeah, it's possible that you could. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter combined for 11 pressures and 2 sacks against the Steelers. The Steelers, that was a terrible matchup for Pittsburgh going into the game. You knew it, and you knew Aaron Rodgers was going to be a sitting duck, and that's exactly how to play it out. In fact, we didn't really hit this too much because it was the entirety of the Pittsburgh offense that seemed to be overrun in that game. But Rodgers played one of the worst statistical games by any quarterback in the playoffs ever in that game. And that was not because Aaron Rodgers is now a terrible quarterback. It's just Houston's defense is going to eat alive a quarterback who can't move. Now, Drake May can move. That's the other part of it. Like Drake May, this is going to be a huge, huge challenge for a second-year quarterback. And now we're deep into January, Mark, so we're not going to talk about how he didn't face anybody all season, which he really didn't. But how does he adjust to a ferocious defense, getting after him, giving him confusing looks, being his offensive line getting overrun, which just happens when Houston plays? Is he able to make the right decisions? Does he throw the ball up for grabs? Is he able to escape and pick up yardage while scrambling? If the Patriots move on to the AFC title game, it's because Drake May announces, he's already an MVP candidate, but announces, not only am I already special at this age, I just conquered one of the best defenses of the last 10 years in this spot. So if this is kind of a showcase game, we all know that Drake May is really, really good. Is he already great? That's a nice subplot.
Yeah, I don't see it the same way that I look at some of these Josh Allen games. Like, I think this is a Josh McDaniels game in a big way because you're going to have to find a way to cook up, whether it's not a trick play, but do some unexpected Patriots things to generate some positive offense, I think, early to hang around in this. One of the reasons that Rodgers had that night is that this, and Robert Mays put this out on Twitter, that the Texans have not allowed a positive EPA passing game by any quarterback since week 2. They've been literally dominant. They've blown people up. They take offenses and throw them into a blender and don't allow you to operate in your normal mode. So I really think Josh McDaniels is going to have to work with Drake May throughout the game and adjust because it could get ugly early. You don't have a lot of weapons, but if you can generate 2 or 3 big plays to keep the Texans guessing, which is a tall order, that's how you stick around.
And very quickly, Mark, that's a perfect point. And guess who the 2 top minds in the Texans offensive room are? Jerry Shilpinski and Nick Caley. Guess who both of them came up under Josh McDaniels? They're going to be able to help D'Amico Ryan sort some of this stuff out.
Right.
Okay. So one last thing. Yes, Nico Collins, like we said, suffered a concussion. He got carted off. He had the towel over his head. He got dinged pretty good in that game that was played on Monday night. I think there's a pretty decent chance we don't see Nico Collins on the field. Christian Gonzalez, the star cornerback of the Patriots, he also suffered a concussion against the Chargers, but the update on him is he practiced and appears to be on track to clear concussion protocol. So Gonzalez likely will be on the field for the Patriots. Collins very much up in the air. And we have one little minor update. We mentioned the Sam Darnold injury. We won't give you 20 updates on it, but he told reporters after practice,
"Hi, everybody. It's me, Tom Brokaw.
and I'm Michael Caine.
Have we met once before?"
Sam Darnold told reporters after practice that he felt, quote, something in his side while throwing, asked what percentage he may not play in the game, quote, very low percentage, closer to 0. So if it's indeed minor, expect Darnold, and Sessler's pumping his fist because the Seahawks got to win by 29 points.
Yeah, and you have to keep waking Tom Brokaw up from a nap. I mean, we know he's not activating news right now in real life.
Justin, again, this is not a good sign. or it's a great son. Have me, Ceci, and the Or Man disagreed on any of the picks so far as we go into the final preview?
We are unanimous. Well, you guys are unanimous across the board on all 3 games we've previewed. Let's see if you're all on LA or Chicago.
Okay. Without further ado. Yeah, go ahead, Connor.
I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm just trying to read those baby blue eyes of yours and just see where you're going and think about what you're doing strategically. And I'm very interested about how the next 5 minutes shape up. That's all.
All right. The number 5 Los Angeles Rams at the number 2 Chicago Bears. Rams by 3.5 is the spread right now. Tirico and Collinsworth on the call. I love this totally bizarre, like, you could take your scoregami and stick it where the sun don't shine. I don't care. I don't care. What I do care about is stats like this. I don't care. This will be the 15th playoff game Sean McVay has coached against 15 different teams. Give me that stat.
I love
Give
that
me
stat.
that stat. Give me all that you got about that. How stupid and strange.
Stats are for losers.
there you go, Sean. This is a weather game. Okay? And let's get into this game by talking about how the Chicago Bears earned the number 2 seed, and it could turn out to be massive because, while it's very nice in Denver this weekend, in Chicago, it's going to be freezing cold with a wind chill that could take it, I believe, even into negative digits or single digits. So it's a weather game. How much does that change how you think about this game, Sessler? Obviously, we just assume the Chicago Bears team will be fine. Does it spook you about the Los Angeles Rams football operation?
They haven't played a postseason game with freezing temperatures since December 26, 1983, when they faced the Cowboys.
Did they win or lose? That will decide my pick.
I'll do deeper research on that. But I'll tell you what, like, the first person you look at is the quarterback. And if anything, I know that the Lions played in a dome, but Matthew Stafford has years and years of experience of playing in terrible northern weather.
His stats aren't great, though. And I know he has experience, but he is not a great cold weather quarterback.
I agree with that. I don't love it. I think in today's modern sports, like, I don't know if it really just simply favors the Bears because they're walking around shoveling their own driveways. Maybe it does, but I kind of love the idea of what the Rams are right now. If you're going to roll out and consistently use like your 13 personnel, which they abandoned early on against Carolina last week, which kind of surprised me, but in a cold weather game, and you've got a bunch of guys up at the line, you're going 13 personnel, and you're facing a Bears team. I think this injury matters. TJ Edwards lost last week, out of the lineup. They're a little weak inside. Like, you can do what you want, and I do think that the Rams are not compromised in this game because of weather. I know everyone's talking about it. It's a weird factor. It probably mutes both offenses to some degree, but if anything, it also affects the Bears. Weather is going to affect both teams' schemes equally to some degree.
I don't understand why weather is going to affect literally the 2 best rushing teams in terms of success rate over the last decade. They're 1 and 2. It's the 2025 Rams and the 2018 Rams, and like everybody else, like way beneath that. But the other thing that I keep going back to and thinking of, and yes, it's probably a hard take to kind of pass through the meat grinder here, but as confident as Matt Stafford was in that final drive against Carolina, and as bad as we saw the Rams play down that final stretch, is there a sense that, like, they're pocketing some of the good stuff, like some of the really, really good stuff, the next evolution of what they have, because they understand what it's like to be in the playoffs and to need that other gear. And I remember covering that Super Bowl between the Bengals and the Rams and talking to people around that Rams coaching staff and them saying, just wait until you see Odell Beckham in this game. And Odell was having a huge game before he blew out his ACL. And I always think that Sean has another card in his back pocket to play. He's like a magician. Like, there's something hidden there. And I'm wondering if we see that against Chicago.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at with this, just assumption, the LA team is going to have trouble here. It's like, no, like Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams could also struggle in this situation.
Right.
Or
Caleb Williams went to USC.
Right. Or both sides will be slinging it and they'll be successful. But We'll see. I just think like the way I come down on this game is, and the Bears and Bears fans will love this because this has just been kind of the story of their season, is that, well, you're dismissing us. Meanwhile, we keep on ripping hearts out and celebrating like maniacs. And maybe that's how this is going to end out. Maybe this is just Chicago's year and it's one of those like fairy tale type seasons and they're going to be playing in the Super Bowl. But I look at what's going on here and I look at our competition and I think to myself, you know what? Nice job by Sussy last week, because if you're going to hit the Back to the Future, hop in the DeLorean, you might as well do it when you really feel like you have a true advantage. It's only going to get tougher to pick these games, okay? And I'd rather know where I am with this. If I do this, I'd rather know where I stand going into Championship Sunday next week. So, with that said, let me dumb this down. Give me the best team on the field, which I believe is the Los Angeles Rams. Give me Sean McVay figuring out how to navigate a game like this, and give me Matthew Stafford doing what other quarterbacks have not been able to do against the Bears, close out football games, including this Los Angeles Rams defense and this pass rush, closing out football games. I think they will advance. I'm locking it up, and I'm taking the DeLorean and going to put myself in the driver's seat in this competition.
Not spicy.
Golly.
Leaves Connor in a
Connor, you're in a little bit of a
interesting
bind
place.
here now. What are you thinking?
So, in lieu of like just worrying and panicking about this and thinking about the worst case scenario, I'm just going to mention this interesting little nugget that I just dug up here. Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker of the Rams, has missed one field goal this year. In what conditions, Dan? Outdoors and at night. So,
but just one. If you would have said he missed 7, I'd be like, oh, wait a second.
Just saying. I mean, this game, if it's going to be that close, it's going to come down to kickers.
I feel like you've been body shaming Mevis a little bit, because about a month or so ago, you had predicted that he would crumble in a big spot.
No, that was the Saints kicker. That was the Saints kicker.
It wasn't Mevis?
No, because remember the Saints kicker, there was like everyone jumping
I think Justin will have the galley on this. Yes.
I can clear this up. There was a situation where Connor predicted a meltdown for Charlie Smith because everyone was on him celebrating.
It was
so much.
very common.
There was a
Anti-Irish
second
take or Scottish.
Too many people are having fun. Yeah.
There was a second take that Connor made where he needed the Rams, I believe, to win by 10, I believe, in a double-up lock situation. And he went on to say, I'm going to need the thicker kicker to hit a field goal for me, and he's just going to have a meltdown. But I think that's
what I remember. Okay.
Might have been over text only. I don't remember.
All right, thank you.
We've got C-3PO over here. How do you even remember all that?
Unfortunately, I'm more like Rain Man than C-3PO, just in like my personal...
You are listening to these conversations like 3
interactions.
extra times than we are.
That's true.
Yes. So anyway, as you were saying, Connor.
These games always come down to kickers, and we saw in the last game at Acrisure. That's the Steelers stadium now, right? Acrisure?
Something like that.
Acrisure? The second to last game, I guess, at Acrisure, that bad conditions, bad weather, it chunks up the turf, and a lot of teams don't have the right ground to practice on. And so, again, I'm just throwing it out there. Something to
What's
think
your
about.
pick?
I'm taking the Rams. I agree with you. I mean, I'm not going to bet against Sean McVay in this situation, especially after Ben Johnson just played Matt LaFleur. And Matt LaFleur downloaded everything from that week, and then he's going to call his best friend and tell him what's going on. I think Justin might even have some sound related to that.
Thing in Green Bay, and Mike being on your staff,
Yeah.
you're close with Matt. He's played Ben Johnson 3 times.
What a sound.
Yeah.
How close is Matt?
What would you guess? No, you know what? We watch the tape, we do our work, and Matt is a very close friend of mine.
He has this ability, by the way. If you roll that back without the sound, when he's asked that question, he looks at someone like, I am going to burn your house down and murder your family. And then he tilts his head and smiles and is like, well, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like a cute little genius. And then he turns his head again and he's like, still going to burn your house down and murder your family. Yeah. He's got everyone gives Ben Johnson the king of the dog. Sean McVay's got that dog inside him too.
Remember those Energizer? I think maybe it's Duracell actually, battery commercials in the 90s. And it was like the people that were like plastic people. and they were just like walking around and kind of. I think he's turning into almost like a Ken doll type. Like just his appearance is just so like it's just so clean that it almost doesn't appear human. There's something almost AI generated about 2026 Sean McVay. Like there's not anything out of place.
Well, he's extremely rich LA. He's got like a model wife. There could be a lot of factors contributing to his. He's going through sort of a Brady. I saw a thing yesterday to back our research, Dan, of Brady from like 20 years ago to like 2 months ago. And it was like, these are not the same human beings. This person literally has a different skeletal structure in his face now.
So this game kicks off at, let's see.
6:10?
6:30 in, or what would it be, 7:30 in Chicago? Or 5:30 in Chicago? And it is going to be at night, 2 degrees, winds blowing at over 20 miles per hour. It's not going to be great for the Bears kicker either, by the way. Cloudy skies, partly cloudy overnight, low of 2 degrees, winds, like I said, gusts can go over 40 miles per hour. It's going to be a game that probably does win on the ground, and it's like, what ground game do you like better? It's a great matchup. It's a fun matchup. The weather game, if we had the Denver weather here, I would feel way better about the Rams, but I still like their chances. I just think they're a great team, and a great team is going to show up in this spot and get to the
Rams are quietly the worst defense in the league against outside zone runs. So I just imagine right now as we speak that Ben Johnson is doing something psychotic and leading edge to take advantage of every little nook and cranny he can. So I don't. And this has been the best second half team in the league. I don't think this is going to be easy for the Rams at all. I think it's daring for either one of you to lock this game because this thing is a coin toss to me.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll pick it.
I am going to go Bears. 28-27.
Good.
Mark, just add on to that prediction. What's the score with 5 minutes left?
Rams 21-27 or 27-21 Rams. They will lose by a touchdown at the end.
Nice.
In the final seconds. And you know who I'm picking to do that? Colston Loveland.
Oh, you love that guy.
Chicago loves him. He's a force.
We're landing with Loveland again. Another segment ends with a Loveland love letter from Sessler. Okay, cool. By the way, you see the heat between Lil Wayne and Caleb Williams? I guess I missed this, that Lil Wayne's is a massive Packers fan. So after the devastating loss by Green Bay to Chicago, he had this tweet. We just lost a playoff game to a guy with purple nails. We fucking suck. Bare ass. We don't deserve to be in the playoffs straight like that. Purple nails, okay? And then that got back to Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams had this to say. Or did it get back to Caleb Williams?
It went to Lil Wayne tweeted again first. I think
Lil Wayne.
Caleb posted an Instagram reel with a Lil Wayne song.
Got it. All right. And now I'm going to have Mark actually read Lil Wayne's follow-up.
All right. He said, hey, Caleb, don't mind me, bro. I'm just a cheesehead for life, and you just a killer. And you killed us bad each time, and for that you get the praise gesture from me. I love the game, and it'd be impossible to make that statement without acknowledging and admiring your game, King. You a beast, but you're still a bear.
What? How come?
I think I did pretty well on that, considering some of the grammatical adventures he went down.
Done it even better? Colston Loveland.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
How does Lil Wayne...
Caleb says, wheeze, it's all love. Bear down, though. It's like a love letter back and forth. All right, let's take a break, and we'll continue to move through divisional round weekend. Welcome back. Yes, we promised it, and now Connor will deliver it. The famous, infamous story when Orr and Payton were at loggerheads.
Sweating over here.
Okay, here we go. So important background context. This is only going to take about 35 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I had recently gotten a job at SI, been my dream job, and had left and gone from NFL Network to Sports Illustrated. And it kind of passed my initial test of getting into the magazine, right? Where the first story didn't go horribly wrong. And so you kind of get a second crack at it. And every time you get one of these, it might be the last one. So you have to report your ass off and you have to do absolutely everything that you can. So it's like the Bounty Gate anniversary and the Saints are in the playoffs. And it's like, I want to say it's like 2 weeks before the Rams game that they're going to lose in the divisional round or the conference championship. And so they say, go down there and report on something. It's like a 10-year anniversary of Bounty Gate, whatever. And I was like, okay. So my old boss, Peter King, he said, Connor, it's interesting that I read this article in this small Texas newspaper this week that the children who Sean Payton coached in Bounty Gate are now all graduating high school. And he's like, they talked to some reporter who covers like local Texas high school football, but he's like, nobody's kind of picked up on this. Like, why don't you talk to the kids? I was like, okay, neat. Great idea. So I call the high school.
What could go wrong?
And I am trying to tell this story like of past and future. And there's like the kids in this moment back then and the Saints as they are now. And like, it's working around this analogy of like gears in a clock that are kind of trying to turn together for Sean Payton. And so I call the school and I'm like, hey, I don't know I don't know how this works. Like, I don't know how different states are, but like, I would love to talk to these kids. I'm assuming they're all graduating seniors, so they're allowed to talk to me, but like, here's my phone number and have them ask their parents. And then if anyone wants to call me, call me. And he's like, okay, cool. So the athletic director, whoever I talk to. And so in the coming days, like most of the kids are calling me and they're great. They're very funny, cute stories about, these are the plays we used to run, yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to the Saints and I'm like, hey, it would be cool to talk to Sean about this. And they're like, well, maybe, probably not, maybe, probably not. And so then I go down there and I'm working on like the Saints part of it. And I'm like, hey, is he going to talk about this? Maybe, probably not. Okay. So in my reporting, you run into something else that requires a comment from Sean in regard to something that someone mentioned about that time that he claims not to be true, which is fine. Or was misunderstood or whatever it was. So I reach out and to the Saints, I'm like, okay, here's my list of questions for the story. Then I immediately get a call from Sean and he's like, let me guess where you got this from. You're wrong about this. And let me explain to you why you're wrong about this and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, dude, like, fine. That's it. In reality, I'm shitting my pants, right? Because here's the important context here. I came from NFL Network. And as you guys know, if you like fuck up with a team in a big way, like you're in a lot of trouble. Right. And so I didn't know what, like I knew SI, but like, I also don't know if like I piss off one of the most powerful coaches in the NFL. Like, am I totally f***ed here? So I'm shitting my pants and I'm getting yelled at and I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah, whatever. Okay. All right. And then I'm like, listen, I mean, really all I wanted to do was tell this story about the kids and the kids graduating. And he goes, well, I'm going to call that school and I'm going to make sure that no one there ever talks to you. And I was like, well, the interesting thing is I've already talked to everybody there. And so then it goes from a 1 to like a 50. And I'm just getting, screamed at. And I'm like, like I'm just like watching my career totally flash before my eyes. And I'm like, listen, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like there was some insinuation that I'm like that I'm committing harassment because I'm like calling the school. And I'm like, right. Okay, like, all right, this is where I kind of need to get like...
You're committing reporting.
Felony
reporting.
This is kind of where I need to get my bosses involved, right? And so I'm like, okay, listen, like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to do here. But, all right, you need to talk to my bosses. So I get off the phone with him. I guess he calls my bosses, tells them I'm terrible and I'm unethical and I'm horrible. He calls Peter, my mentor and like my hero, tells him I'm horrible and an idiot and I'm fucking all this up. And so this is where SI kind of comes in and is sort of like the beacon and the integrity of it. A couple days later, I'm like, I just need to clear my mind. I'm freaking out about this. I've talked to like pro football writers. I'm like, what do I do? Because I don't know what's going to happen to me. Like what happens when something like this happens? Like, because he was so mad. And I forget everything that he said at this point, but it was like, like basically, this is not going to be a good situation for you, And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, national gig, I really this up. And so I go out to Omaha and I'm working on this story about Matt LaFleur. He used to be a quarterback for this arena football team called the Omaha Beef. And the Omaha Beef at halftime would have these giant shirtless men like wiggling around. That was like their big thing. And so I was like, I got to see this in person. So my editor, Mark Moravik, who's awesome, all-time SI editor, goes, listen, I know you're not going to like this, but you need to go on a plane and you need to go to his next press conference and you need to stand there. And if he has anything to say to you, he can say it then. And I was like, no, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, yes, you are. And I was like, no, I'm not. And so anyway, I'm like freaked out. I'm paranoid. I go down there. I literally stand like 2 feet from the podium, like this, and like doesn't say anything to me. And he walks away. By the way, the whole time the Saints PR team is like, oh, like making me so I should be
They know
scared.
you by your visage, by your looks.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. And when I say that, like the Saints PR team was like acting like I committed this fatal error, like I had done this horrible thing. And I'm now convinced that I've done this horrible thing. So I go to the open locker room period and I stand in the little hallway or right at the edge of the locker room where like coaches pass through. He doesn't say anything. And so I believe it to be over. And it is pretty much. So then the funny coda to this is that, like my family, I've been talking to them all week. I'm like, Mom, Dad, I think I'm going to get fired. Like, I'm like just wrecked. Like I was like, what if I have to get a lawyer? Like, because again, you mentioned harassment. So I'm like, what if I have to get an attorney? Like, is someone going to pay for that? Like, I don't know. I just got this job. And then
hang on 1 second. If you're just joining us, Connor is telling the story that we've been waiting for. Sean Payton is angry at Connor Orr. Back to you, Connor.
Okay, sorry. And so my mom is like this angel of a person. She's like, everything's going to be okay. I think everything's going to be all right. And I was like, okay. And so I go then, because I'm down there, I have to stand in front of him. And so now that I'm down there, I stay for the NFC Championship game. And the Nickel Roby-Coleman thing happens. And like the worst phantom pass interference call.
Cost them a spot in the Super Bowl. The entire place is just blown away. And like now you're in the building for the lowest moment of his career.
I'm in the building for the lowest moment in his career. I love it. And so I walk outside and I remember being on, I think it was like Bourbon Street, and just kind of walking up and down like in a daze, because you're just thinking about the last couple of days. I'm so grateful that like I'm not, like I still get to keep my dream job and I'm doing what I love and all this stuff. And it's like very emotional. And then my mom calls me and it's like after the game, and she goes, I saw what happened to that mean coach that yelled at you. And I said, yeah. And she said, I went to church this morning and I lit a candle and I prayed that something like that would happen. and it still like gives me like, chills and like gets me like emotional when she says something like that. And I was just like, yeah, and so I'm probably not telling the meat of it as well as it could. I actually just texted my editors, and if they text me back, I'm going to say, what do you remember about Sean calling you and yelling at you on my behalf? Because it was such a blur, but like on the phone, it was like, just how I'm fucking blowing my career and like, all this shit. And and so it was this crazy experience. And so after that, like, I was kind of like, I don't have to root for that guy. I can root for other people. I don't have to root for that guy.
I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy, his reputation precedes him, and that's why maybe good things shouldn't happen to the Broncos this weekend. I don't know. I mean, they are the team of HTC. Let's not forget that. All right, so where are we at? Let's check out the locks here. This is important. It's winning time in the lock competition.
Oh, baby.
Gravy locks up the Broncos at home against the Bills. Sessi. And Gravy goes back to the future on that one. Sessi locks up the Seahawks, another home team. And then me and Connor both picked road dogs. Connor's got the Texans knocking off the Patriots, despite being a 3-point underdog. And yes, Zuzzer's got the Rams ending this fairy tale Bears season. The Rams are favored by 3.5, by the way. And yes, Ceci, because it's over 5 points that spread, he needs to double the 7-point favor. So the Seahawks must win by 17.
And technically for the listener, but also because I've never been put into this trap, it stays at 7 even if Sam Darnold were kidnapped and it went down to 2.
That's it. This is where it was,
Okay.
and that's how it works. Okay, good stuff. This is going to be a fun weekend, boys. Gotta love it. Gotta love the playoffs, and especially this postseason, what's been a strange season. That's the only thing I know. The chances that the fact that we took road teams, Connor, like, I don't feel like this weekend's going to go chalk. I don't feel that way. I feel like we're going to have some teams that are going to go into other buildings and send fans home in a total deep depression, and we'll see how it goes.
I think, too, that what we're doing is we're correcting past mistakes subconsciously. And I'm not saying that this is something that we're constantly the victims of, but we've been swept up, right? And we've been swept up a few times this year. And a lot of this is anti-sweep up, because right now we're hearing about all the Patriots and the Magic and the Drake May and all that stuff. And I'm like, no. And just like you, it's like Ben Johnson and the maniacal genius and Chicago in the winter. And Dan's like, F that. And so I think that's great.
Well, I think you're both going to get bit in the behind.
Just to add a little postscript to the Sean Payton thing, by the way, because I did just get a text back from my editor.
Yes, let's get that postscript.
Here we are.
Yeah. I just texted him and I said, hey, what do you remember about Sean Payton screaming at me and then me telling him to call you? And then he said, Sean Payton, my buddy, we must have talked for at least 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. This was shortly after you called me, sounding a bit shaken because it had gotten personal with you, if I remember correctly. And then just goes on to say in great detail, by the way, which is perfect for an editor in that point, that he had taken objection with me saying that I was exploiting kids and that...
As you're wont to do.
That the magazine backed me, and that he said that, I didn't have any integrity, and that he said it went around and around, and then the conversation was brought to an end with a modicum of respect. So there you go.
It's a good editor. It's a good editor.
Great editor.
Job.
Yep.
One
Great
of the
job
best.
by you, Connor, standing up for what you believed in journalistically and taking down a bully on some level. You know what I mean?
He's still bullying. Still operating in that schoolyard.
Took me about almost a decade to not be afraid of it anymore. But, just do it on your own time, everybody.
We got Sirianni out last week. Is Payton going out this week? Is it, we're going to find out. Tune in on Sunday night. We're going to have the recap of all of these games for you. Also, head over to the Patreon, where we have the Friday Fun Show back in its glorious outside the regular season form. So make sure you sign up for patreon.com/heed the call. You like that merch? Haven't gotten it yet? Man, we're almost sold out of the first run entirely. We got an email today, Ceci. So head to heedthecallpod.com if you want exclusive merch. Ceci, you got something to add before we sign off?
We got people grinding to create new merch for us, and we are headed into the great weekend of weekends, and we'll see you soon.
Justin, do you have something to add?
Yes, you said heedthecallpod.com. That's actually incorrect. It's heedthecallpodcast.com.
Oh, that seems important.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin.
Well, let's see what's happening over at that other site.
All right, everybody, have a great and safe weekend. Yes, we know John Harbaugh on the Giants is a done deal. Read Connor Orr's brilliant write-up of the restaurant where the deal got done over on SI.com, and we'll talk about all the coaching stuff next week. Until then, until Sunday night, do what you must. Heed the call.